People noticed that the beggar was always writing in an old notebook. His hands, dirted from life on the streets, moved with surprising elegance as he wrote. The question on everyone's mind was, who is this beggar? What could he possibly be writing? Why was he writing at all? After all, what does a poor beggar have to do with pen and paper? The mystery of his words began to attract the curiosity of passers-by, but no one ever stopped to ask. They assumed he was just another man lost to the streets, his writings just random nonsense. But they were wrong, terribly wrong. Rafik sat on the corner of a busy street, dressed in torn and dirty clothes. A small bowl sat in front of him, waiting for coins from the strangers who walked by. To them, he was just a beggar. People barely glanced at him, and if they did, it was only for a second. What they didn't see, though, was the old notebook he held close. Every day, Rafik would open that notebook and write, his hands moving with surprising grace. Despite his ragged appearance, there was something about the way he held the pen that seemed out of place for a man in his situation. It was as if writing brought him peace. Rafik wasn't just scribbling nonsense. Inside the notebook were detailed thoughts, business ideas, and inventions. These ideas weren't just dreams, they were plans, carefully written down, ready to come to life. But nobody knew this because nobody ever asked. Once upon a time, Rafik had lived a different life. He had been part of the world that now ignored him. But life had taken everything from him, his job, his home, his family. All that remained was his mind, and he clung to his ideas like a lifeline. Day after day, Rafik poured his thoughts onto the pages. It was all he had left, the only thing keeping him going. The people who passed by saw only a beggar, but to Rafik, he was more than that. He was a man with ideas that could change the world. One day, something unusual happened. As Rafik was writing, a man named Malik noticed him. Malik was a wealthy businessman, always on the lookout for new ideas. Something about the way Rafik wrote caught his eye. Malik stopped and asked, "What are you writing?" Rafik looked up, startled. He hesitated at first, but then handed Malik the notebook. No one had ever asked him before, and he wasn't sure what to expect. Malik flipped through the pages, and his eyes widened in surprise. "These ideas, they're incredible," Malik said, astonished. "You've come up with something truly brilliant." Rafik felt a spark of hope for the first time in years. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance to make something of his ideas. Malik stood there, deep in thought. After a few moments, he smiled at Rafik and said, "I can help you bring these ideas to life." Rafik, desperate for change, agreed without hesitation. He handed Malik the notebook and hoped this would be the turning point. However, after Malik left, days passed without any word from him. Rafik waited anxiously, sitting in his usual spot, wondering if he had made a mistake. Doubts began to creep in. Was Malik really going to help him? Weeks turned into months, and then Rafik saw Malik on the news. The businessman was presenting innovative new ideas, ideas that were familiar, too familiar. Rafik's heart sank. Malik had stolen his work. Rafik felt betrayed and powerless. He had no way to prove those ideas were his. Malik was growing richer and more famous by the day, and the world believed he was the genius behind them. Meanwhile, Rafik remained on the street, unseen and unheard. The betrayal hurt deeply, but Rafik wasn't broken. He had learned a painful lesson, but he still had his mind, and he still had his ability to create. Malik had taken his notebook, but Rafik's ideas were still his. Rafik sat down and bought a new notebook. He started writing again, this time with even more determination. His ideas were sharper, his vision clearer, and he knew he would keep going, no matter what. Though Malik had taken his ideas, Rafik realized something important. The real power was in his mind, not in the notebook. And this time, he would find a way to protect what was his. He had been patient for years. He could wait a little longer. Rafik's hands moved swiftly as he filled page after page in the new notebook. He felt the same passion he had before, but this time, there was something different. This time, he had a plan to ensure that his ideas would finally be seen by the world. As the years passed, Malik's success continued to grow, but Rafiq's new ideas were even better than the ones that had been stolen. He remained on the streets, unnoticed by the crowds, but he knew that would change soon. One day, as Malik basked in his fame, an unexpected event occurred. A journalist investigating Malik's rise to success stumbled upon Rafiq's story. Intrigued by the mysterious beggar, the journalist began to dig deeper. The journalist discovered Rafiq's role in the creation of Malik's inventions. It was undeniable. Malik had taken the ideas from Rafiq's original notebook. The story exploded in the media, and people began to question Malik's integrity. In the end, the truth came out. Malik's reputation was destroyed, and Rafiq finally got the recognition he deserved. But Rafiq didn't care about fame or revenge. All he wanted was for his ideas to be seen. Rafiq stood at the same street corner where his journey had begun, holding his notebook. This time, though, he wasn't invisible. People knew his story, and they knew that the beggar they had once ignored was, in fact, a visionary. As the world finally began to recognize his brilliance, Rafiq smiled. He had waited patiently for his moment, and now it had arrived. But he didn't seek wealth or glory. His only wish was for his ideas to help others, just as they had once saved him. In the end, the question that had once puzzled everyone, "Who is this beggar?" had been answered. Rafiq wasn't just a beggar. He was a man whose ideas had the power to change the world. And now, the world knew it too.